Hello, everyone. Straight from Liverpool, England today, I've got with us John Patterson. He's the Rotary Charter President of his club, and he's also the principal at St.Vincents School for the Blind. He has created a project called SightBox that we're going to be talking about. This is really cool stuff. Stick around. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's Caring Crowd. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a joy to have you. I feel like I'm talking to one of the Beatles with your Liverpool accent there. So I should probably dub in some Beatles background music for our whole episode here. I'll see about doing that. But listen,
that would be great.
John, tell us a little bit about SightBox. What is SightBox?
What is SightBox is really a whole curriculum. So if I start from the beginning, our children at St.Vincents are really engaged in creative teaching and learning, the stuff that Sir Ken Robinson talks about. And I know he's over there in Los Angeles, a big wave to a fellow Scouser. Our children do a lot of creative learning, music, art, dance, drama, sport. But we turn their creativity and their belief in themselves once they're being creative and focus it into STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths. And the children have been designing ideas that can help themselves and other blind children access sports and access education. Those physical ideas we've put in a box, amazingly called a SightBox, and we've been sending that with Rotary help all around the world. So the SightBox has gone to India, Pakistan, Rwanda, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Indonesia, Peru. But our children are now teaching children around the world how to use the content using technology. So it's a win-win situation. What SightBox is about is helping blind children around the world access education and access routes to employment. With some 6 million blind children around the world, there's a lot to be done. And when you look at the very high unemployment, I mean really high unemployment rates for children who are visually impaired, even though they've got great skills, the SightBox is a step towards doing something about that. In a nutshell, that's SightBox.
Well, as you describe for us, because those of us who don't experience and live in and work in this community struggle to understand how do visually impaired students, blind students, see how do they play sports, and how does your SightBox help them do that?
Yeah, you know, all the visually impaired children I've ever met, you know, they just want to play sports, and you know they're more than able. They're grit and determination. So let's start with, 100 years ago, somebody came up with a ball with a bell in it. That's the simple idea. A ball with a bell in it, you can hear it coming. And all of the games that you can play around a ball with a bell, you can think of cricket, baseball, I'm sure over there in the States. All of those games you can play. But there are other games that you can't participate in so well. So for instance, bowls. There's a game called bocce. I don't really want it to be thought of as bowls for the blind. It's bocce. But bocce is just like bowls, but our children have devised a grid. In that grid, you can pace out where the ball lands and then leave a peg and play with a partner, a sighted partner or a visually impaired partner. A very simple piece of equipment that enables you to play bowls. More technology-wise, iRugby. Our children have worked with university students and they've come up with iRugby, which enables you to play rugby, probably the same as a little bit like your American football, with a ball that has a little bit of technology in it. So access to sports is really access to friendship groups. And access to friendship groups is access to raising your self-esteem and belief in yourself, to design more ideas for a SightBox. So it's a circle of education. If you look at sightbox.org.uk, you'll see some of the equipment that's in a SightBox. The most important thing is the creative curriculum that surrounds each one of the items in that box that enables you to access education and technology.
So let's talk a little bit about the the science, technology, engineering, and math applications that you put in the SightBox. What kinds of things are going in the SightBox, and how do the students use those?
If we start from a ball with a bell in it, and you do a maths lesson around that, when you throw a ball in the air, its trajectory is, and you can work out all sorts of just normal, same as American national curriculum work that surrounds using that ball. It just makes your learning more interesting. When you've come along and you've experienced new ideas, the children in their work have got to, right, what would you design? What would you make that would make your access to any sport you can think of? Skiing, rugby, judo. What would you do that would enable you to access that easier? Once the children come up with ideas, because I'll tell you, visually impaired children are children who just happen to be blind, but they are creative in very different ways. It's very, very encouraging. They have great abilities, not disabilities. One of them is creativity. Once you've got the children really excited, they start coming up with ideas. How we've worked it well is we engage with our two universities, our two local universities, Liverpool John Moores University, Liverpool Hope University, and we've engaged design engineers. This is an important part of our teaching and learning. It's called reverse inclusion. So we bring in sighted children to our school. We bring in sighted design engineers where our children take the lead, reverse inclusion. And we work together to actually conceptualize and put down and make the ideas they come up with, either in CAD or, computer technology wizardry, that our children can actually physically take the lead in making and designing. We've got about 4 ideas currently under research and development right now. It's a great way of getting design engineers from universities. Harvard Business School had a good working of model of a similar idea, but it's great when you get younger children working with older peers, working with educationists and engineers. Marvelous things happen.
It sounds really exciting. Now, one of the activities that I think you said you're involved in is connecting kids from your school with kids in the developing world who are similarly situated and helping to establish connections there. Did I understand that correctly?
You did indeed. The footprint in that is the website, which is the sightbox.org.uk. Our children, strengths in languages. So a lot of our children, we've actually got Urdu starting next term. Children are learning Urdu. We do French. There are a lot of other languages such as Urdu, such as Arabic, that our children are working with. Actually, one boy particularly Japanese. But our children are using the website to teach the content in that box to children around the world. That's exciting. We've got a very advanced idea that's working in the Gambia, where the government in the Gambia, because of the SightBox, has just put £100,000 into the VI, the visually impaired community in the Gambia. So our children are learning languages. Simultaneously, they're learning how to use computer technology and actually come up with ideas for the computer technology itself to teach children in the developing world how to use the content. We're working with O2 at the minute, and which is a phone, do you call them cell phones, mobile phones? We're working with a couple of ideas on how we could get mobile phones to developing countries with access technologies and let them hear how to use the content of the box. If we send the box, that's great. You got a ball with a bell in it, that's great. How you use it and how you engage those children and their creativity in their country, this is all the Bourdieu stuff, habitus and field. Those children are going to be starting to come up with ideas that they'll be sending back to us. It's a win-win situation where we're sharing innovation.
That's a really great model. It's exciting. How do you fund all of this?
You know what? There's all different ways. All different ways. We've got teaching staff here who are VI specialists. So part of their curriculum, they teach the national curriculum, but part of it is an enriched curriculum. So we've got teaching staff who do it in the day-to-day teaching and learning curriculum. We bring in specialists who either volunteer or we have to find funding for them to bring that specialism in. So often there are social conscience, in large companies, come and help us, come and work with our children. It's in kind. We've got universities that's worked with us, again, in kind. But we found a couple of funding pots from a number of foundations that have supported us in designing ideas, coming up with those concepts, funding it in that way. But Rotary has been really helpful. Rotary International has helped actually buy the boxes. So the major funding comes from Rotary in buying the physical boxes and sending them overseas. What we really need is more foundations to help us with the innovation that surrounds the technology and the STEM work.
It sounds like a great collective effort to make this all work. What's the achievement in this regard that you're most proud of?
Do you know what am I most proud of? I'll tell you a story that only happened last week. There's a boy that's been with us for some years, and just a couple of months ago, he went completely blind. So he's now lost his sight completely. But his engagement with SightBox, he actually got on the British squad for the visually impaired, and he scored in Belgium. All great. He's actually been helping children in the Gambia how to use that content. He's been one of the leaders in using the technology. But last week, a young boy, age 8, came to St.Vincents. He's losing his sight, and his mother was rather upset because he's got no friends, and he needs friends, and he really wants to play football. And the school he's in doesn't want him to play football because he might fall over, he's visually impaired. This often happens in schools that aren't specialists. And Rainbow welcomed this young 8-year-old and took him onto the field. Do you want a game of footy? And started playing footy. A couple of other children came and played. Now, Mum was thrilled. Mum didn't realise that Rainbow's completely blind. I.e., there is hope for your son. He is a child who happens to be blind, and it's all done through sports. That was one of my greatest achievements, in the sense that it was one of our children. That was the achievement in how he shared his knowledge and skills. That's thrilling.
No, that's beautiful, beautiful story. John, you've had a remarkable career. You're super well educated, PhD, and just a remarkable human being in so many ways. What's the most important lesson you've learned in your career?
The most important lesson? Well, the most important lesson is that, people are very different. And, you get people who promise you the world and can deliver you a lump of clay that's soggy. I think it's the most important lesson is finding people's strengths, working with them and with their strengths. And sometimes when you're so embedded in a vision that you're trying to deliver, sometimes it's not about what your vision is. Sometimes it's about helping somebody else's. So I think the biggest lesson is how to collaborate and how to help others, really, at the same time as looking for them to reciprocally help you.
That's great. That's great. Well, John, you actually started training as an engineer and then went back to get into education.
I did, indeed,
and now you focused on helping visually impaired kids. I wonder if you would help us understand why you've made that transition.
Well, apart from being quite a bad engineer, because I wasn't very good at those micrometers, very, very specific engineering, it was my mother that encouraged me. She said, son, I think you're a teacher. And it was my mother that encouraged me to go into teaching. And I taught in a lot of inner city Liverpool schools. I just think that my knowledge and the skills that I learned over that time, there was a time I was invited to St.Vincents to see what was going on there during a project, passionate about project-based learning. And I fell in love with the energy and the fearlessness of the children here. It was just a natural synergy at a time in life where what I had to offer fitted with what was needed. So it's a great blessing, actually, to be able to work with visually impaired children.
Oh, that's great. John, what is your superpower?
My superpower is seeing the superpowers of others. So to see the superpowers in each of our individual children and their strengths and nurture them and grow them, I'd say that's what's mine.
Oh, that's great. Well, John, thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight. I know as we record this, it's almost midnight in Liverpool. I really appreciate you staying up all night for this discussion. Thank you so much. Before you go, though, would you take just one more minute and tell people how they can learn more about SightBox, St.Vincents, your Rotary Club, and how they can connect with you personally, especially if they want to help?
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for this opportunity. There's a website which is www.sightbox.org.uk. There is the school website, which is www.stvincents.com. And the best way is directly email me, which is johnp@stvincents.com. JOHNP@STVIN.com. I'd love to hear from people who are interested, and I'd love to hear from people who would like to share more innovation to help blind children around the world.
Fantastic. Well, John, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we wish you every success in trying to build a more inclusive global society for kids with visual impairments.
Amen to that. Thank you very much.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Amen.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com.